So the left is really trying to do some damage control over what happened to Charlie Kirk because they know full well where this came from and how it happened and what instigated it. And it's years and years and years of rhetoric of calling people on the right, calling Trump and his supporters, calling people like Charlie Kirk and people that agreed with Charlie Kirk and anybody that echoed the same beliefs or sentiments, calling us Nazis, calling us fascists, calling us a threat to democracy. And using that kind of language was intentional. It wasn't just a matter of I disagree with you and insert random name calling derogatory term here. They intentionally selected terms that are associated with oppression, that are associated with people that were led to silence those that they didn't like with violence. So using those terms to label us that way, they were basically telling their base, it's them or you. Like if you don't target them and silence them, they will come after you because that is what people like Nazis were associated with. So that is why they have labeled those of us on the right with those things, to instill the kind of fear in their base that would make them feel justified in targeting us with violence. To basically say it's either me or them. Because if I don't take them out, they'll take me out, which was completely false. But that is where their narratives led the psychology of the people that followed them. And obviously, not everybody in their base is going to act out in violence, even though, as we've seen across the board, they are much more susceptible to it. And it's even become synonymous with their base to be violent, to be destructive, to burn things down, to set things on fire, to attack people in the streets, to attack police officers and ICE agents, to approach you in public and harass you, find out where you live and show up and threaten your family, as Brett Kavanaugh and Supreme Court justices have experienced. It's a long list. And we've seen the results of this rhetoric. Of course, they're telling us that we need to calm down, even though they're not telling us exactly what it is that we need to calm down. Basically saying that if we want to live in peace, we just need to be silent, which is a dictatorship, which is fascism. But they are trying to manage this revelation that, the people are waking up and realizing, oh, the left incited this. And of course, what they do when they are trying to manage these things, they usually resort to blaming Trump when that doesn't work, even though with their base that always works. Their mindless base always grabs onto that. If they say Trump, they're like, yes, obviously that is the problem. Or just blaming the right in general. Or they resort to things like these both sides arguments, trying to say that both sides are equally as bad in whatever it is that they are being accused of, trying to justify what they did because we do it just as much. And anybody with 2 functioning brain cells, at least, at a bare minimum, I should say, understands that that is not true. And we are to the point where we are no longer accepting or even entertaining that narrative, because I feel like a lot of times when people have said this in the past, like both sides do it, we're like, yeah, both sides have problems. Neither side is perfect. We both say things that we shouldn't. We both act out in ways that we shouldn't. It's like no one's disputing that. But when it comes to the extreme that we've reached, there's no equivalent. There's no justification. And most people are basically telling them to shut it. As Greg Gutfeld did to Jessica Tarlov on The Five the other night. This is the most epic rant against this ridiculous both sides argument that I have ever heard. And it's about 4 minutes long. I might interrupt here and there, but you have to hear this because Greg Gutfeld says exactly what all of us are thinking when we hear this both sides bull crap, because that's exactly what it is. And we are tired of it. And he's like, you know what? We don't care what you have to say anymore. We don't care what you think, because you have not, it's because of you that this is happening. And you don't get to pretend that it's even close to anything that the right has ever advocated for, that we've ever promoted in our ideas. None of that. We are done with that. So let's have a listen to Greg Gutfeld absolutely tear Jessica Tarlov a new one.
Don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know. There's absolutely no yes. We don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know. There's absolutely no cognitive.
What about Melissa Hortman that we just
okay, you want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her.
I just want to interrupt right there very quickly, and I will let him go on because trust me, the rest of it gets even better. But I'm sure that a lot of you have heard people on the left bringing up this case of Melissa Hortman, her and her husband were murdered by Vance Bolter. I don't remember what his last name was. And they're saying that this was an act of political violence by somebody who was a Trump supporter. At best, we can speculate that maybe he was a Trump supporter, but this was obviously somebody who had a personal grievance against Melissa and her husband. And then he went and targeted another senator, another political figure. I can't remember who it was as well. And they did survive his attack. And we condemn that. I remember hearing this story and I'm like, this is not okay. Like, we have these people that are psychotic enough to think that violence is the answer. And where do we get that idea from? Maybe it's from the people that believe that they should burn cities down over a criminal, over somebody with a criminal history who held their gun to the belly of a pregnant woman and stole her rent money, somebody with a history of violence, of drugs, and not, of course, nobody's saying that George Floyd deserved to die. Of course, that's not what anybody's saying. But when you get out there and you celebrate violent people, you have to be a violent person with a violent ideology, with a pro-violence ideology to have that belief. People that were taking over college campuses and terrorizing Jewish students because they've adopted these ideas about Palestine and Israel, even though none of them have any idea what's going on over there. People that take to the streets and loot and riot over every little thing. People that are targeting police officers and ICE agents because they don't want gang members and criminals and child predators deported from the country. People that literally use violence every single day to make their voices heard, that have normalized that. And I don't know if Vance was a Trump supporter or not, but we cannot deny that we live in a society where there have been countless groups and organizations and political messages out there that have said this is the way you handle your grievances. So it's not that we don't care about what happened to Melissa Hortman. What we're not surprised about is that the normalization of violence in response to things that you don't like is going to lead more people to do things like this. And we condemn all of it. But to pretend that Melissa Hortman, that her death is the same situation as what happened to Charlie Kirk, it's not that they have less value as human beings, but that is completely insane. And what's more is, where was the Democrat outrage when this happened? Where were their riots and condemning of political violence? None of them did. They didn't condemn it because it's what they resort to constantly. But they only brought it up when we started talking about political violence, when it reached the ultimate extreme, when it reached the point that we knew it was going to reach. If they didn't stop talking about the right as a threat to democracy, as Nazis, as white supremacists, using terms to label us as things that are meant to make it seem like we are dangerous and threatening. We knew that this was going to happen. And what does that say about the left when we're like, we are so deeply heartbroken that one of our own, especially somebody with so much good in their heart who was truly trying to heal this nation, was targeted in this way? What does it say when we're like, We knew that this was going to happen based on who the left is. What does that say about who the left is when we are both heartbroken but not shocked at the same time? Businesses don't need to board up their windows because of us. We haven't been taking to the streets and rioting. We've been taking to the streets and praying.
Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your, what about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead. For one thing, there is no cognitive dissonance on our side. On your side, your beliefs do not match reality. So you're coming up with these rationalizations like, what about this? Or what about that? We're not doing that because we saw it happen. We saw a young, bright man assassinated, and we know who did it. We are not coming up with rationalizations. We are calm, we are honest, and we are resolute. We're not defensive, and I understand the defensiveness. I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart because you're going to realize you're not the good guys. If you sat around and you defended the mutilation of children, you're not the good guys. If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder after calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. That is a hell of a realization to deal with. So therefore, you have to grasp at rationalizations. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us? He was a patsy. That guy was a patsy. He was under the hypnotic spell of a direct-to-consumer nihilism, the trans cult, and you know that. If you can decide that biology is false, you can agree that murder is okay and that humanity is expendable. How you cannot see that alone and see that for what the evil it is without having to attach all of these other things is beyond me.
I just want to be clear, and I want to let people speak. I in no way intended at all to minimize what happened to Charlie. I was horrified by it. I have not been on the five
but
since
the two sides argument, well, it's like pig Latin to a duck.
No. All that I was saying is could we have all of the information before you just say they did this? Because that is a broad brush to paint with this. And this kid
Let's have a conversation.
No.
Charlie had a conversation. He got shot.
I understand.
I'm sorry, Jessica. Gutfeld is saying, Jessica, I don't see you as being in that same boat. She absolutely is in the same boat. She is using the both sides argument to minimize what happened. Not on the fact that he was killed, minimizing it in a way to say that this wasn't the political violent act that you think it was, or that the rhetoric that this kid heard, or that the ideology that he adopted was the same as what everybody else is learning. She is absolutely minimizing this. And that is a part of the whole problem. There are the parts of it where you take on these ideas, where you truly believe that the other side is a threat and dangerous and all of these things. And then there's the part of it where you cheer it on, as we've seen on all over TikTok and social media, all these liberals celebrating it and saying you are a hero if you take out somebody on the right, or if you take out somebody that agrees with Charlie Kirk, you're a hero. And then you have this aspect of the left, like Jessica Tarlov, who says, it's all the same. You know, we all have problems. Everything is equal. Both sides are doing it. So you have all of these different aspects of the left that lead to this one disastrous fireball where somebody psychotic is going to emerge from that and be willing to do the thing that most people aren't willing to do, but that everybody on that side feels is justified. But in that same vein, Senator Eric Schmitt was having a back and forth with Kash Patel talking about this both sides argument. And he's bringing up cases to Kash Patel, asking if he knows if they're left or right violence. And Kash Patel's like, I'm not sure. So he just takes the conversation. He's like, have a seat. Let me handle this. I will tell you what all of these attacks have in common. So let's have a listen to this.
We've heard years of the left, their loudest voices calling anyone on the right extremists, MAGA Republicans, fascists, Nazis, an existential threat to democracy. Check yourself. And don't give me this both sides bullshit. Mr. Director, I want to ask you. Tell me if each one of the following perpetrators or alleged perpetrators were acting from a left-wing or right-wing political violence. The man who tried to kill Republican congressman at the congressional baseball practice, nearly killing House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, left-wing or right-wing violence?
Sir, I believe it was a left-wing ideology.
Okay. Burned down cities during the Summer of Love in the George Floyd riots, left-wing violence or right-wing violence?
Sir, I'll rely on you on these. I don't have off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay, left-wing. The Waukesha Christmas Parade massacre, left-wing or right-wing violence? Left-wing. The Lee Zeldin stabbing attempt, left-wing or right-wing? Left-wing. The Covenant school shooting in Nashville, left-wing or right-wing? Left-wing. The Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on President Trump, left-wing or right-wing? Left-wing. The Trump International West Palm Beach assassination attempt, left-wing. The Abundant Life Christian school shooting, left-wing. The United Care CEO's murder, left-wing. Tesla's burned, keyed, damaged, firebombed, left-wing. The murders at the Israeli embassy, left-wing. The ICE facilities firebombed, left-wing. The Minnesota Catholic school shooting, left-wing. The anti-white Charlotte and North Carolina stabbing, left-wing. The attempted Utah News State firebombing, left-wing. And now, of course, the culmination of this vile trend, a left-wing assassination of Charlie Kirk. So don't give me this both sides. If we want to get to unity, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Free speech, yes. Political violence, no. But let's be honest.
Those are just the facts. And those are just a few of the things on the very long list of political violence against the right by leftist activists, by people that have gone to the extreme of leftist ideology, because there's people all along the spectrum. Because as I said, not everybody is going to carry out something against people, but they are cheering on those who will. They are inciting those who are psychotic enough to do the things that Tyler Robinson did. And to say that that is equally coming from the right is asinine. It takes an entire level of delusion and a total denial of reality to make that connection, to say something like that, to believe that. And thankfully, most people are waking up because, as we've seen, I don't know if you guys have seen, my social media feed has been full of people saying, I am leaving the Democrat Party. I want nothing to do with these people ever again. And it's not because they support Trump or they're fully Republican or they're 100% pro-life or they agree with everything that we stand for or they're suddenly, turned into the next Charlie Kirk. It's because they're looking at the pattern here and saying one side tends to lead more people to act out in violence simply against those they disagree with. Of course, the people that are acting out don't see it as just a disagreement. They see it as us being an actual threat to their existence because that's what they're told. They're told that we don't want them to exist if they're not a conservative Christian. And of course, that's a narrative that has been intentional to make these people afraid and then hopefully act out in that fear. But people are not falling for it anymore. We are done with this crap. We condemn political violence of all kinds because this is where it leads. I've seen the tweets saying, no one should ever be murdered for their opinion. We've seen the tweets, and yet they get right back up there before Charlie Kirk has even had a burial, doing the same things, minimizing it, justifying it, trying to both sides the argument, doing exactly what they've done before to lead up to this moment, telling the next person that might have this on their mind that they don't really mean it, that they're just saying that what they really want me to do is this awful, heinous thing. I just want to be clear. This is not me inciting anybody to go after somebody on the left or to treat them the way that they treat us. But we are understanding fully why free speech can be both a blessing and a curse, but it's absolutely something that we should protect. And we're also understanding why the Second Amendment was there to back up the First Amendment. We need to keep speaking, and we need to keep protecting ourselves. As always, I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel. As always, you guys know that I am going to end every single one of my videos with a Charlie Kirk clip. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
At the core of the left, at the core of a liberal, is someone that would use the sword if they had it. They are very violent people at their core. They always have been. They can't debate. They can't have conversation. So they'll resort to these tactics. They're going to do everything they possibly can to try to murder this movement because they can't beat us. So they're going to try to take weapons. And no, we're very aware of that. I'm aware of it. We have to have full-time security. This is not a joke. This is who these people are.